What's up, everybody? Ricky here at True Trader. Hope you're having a great Halloween weekend, and whether that means taking the kids trick-or-treating, dressing up for a costume party, or sipping some apple cider, there's usually something for everybody. Now, something I feel I've neglected from these Sunday preps up to this point is the topic of themes. And this may prove very timely as we head into November with the markets kind of extended. And that is, when we get extended like this, I hesitate to start new long positions. I even kind of hesitate to really put on day trades from the long side. And this is where the issue of themes really plays a crucial role, because even in a heavy tape, themes can often still have a bid. So what have been some of the themes lately? Well, for starters, the EV sector really heated up, with Tesla leading the way as it broke to new all-time highs. You had Lucid, had a crazy run last week, so the EV sector's been super strong. Other than that, IPOs, newer IPOs that are technically still sound and haven't just had a big break yet, have been really starting to catch bids. Some of them have really flown. Crypto space maintains a bid. Crypto's still strong, and when we get into the broader market analysis, you'll see the Bitcoin index and what we think about that. And lastly is SPACs are hot again. The SPACs are back. So as we move into the ideas, you're going to see how these themes play a role, because there will be long ideas, but I want to make sure that I identify themes so that I'm not getting headaches from starting long positions in sectors that may be vulnerable to a market pullback. Other than that, if you guys missed last Thursday, we did our 6th episode of Method and Mindset over at TrueTrader.net's Instagram channel, and it was phenomenal. We've actually had a lot of requests that we put those things from Instagram onto YouTube. You asked, we listened, they're there. So TrueTrader.net's YouTube channel now has all of the Method and Mindsets. Also, check out methodandmindset.com if you haven't already. There's hours and hours and hours of free content, both from myself and from Kim Ann Curtin, the Wall Street coach. It's free. Did I mention it's free? Oh yeah, by the way, it's free. Lastly, make sure you're subscribed and notifications are turned on. You don't want to miss new content, especially from my G from Another She, the Goose Man. Please, guys, if you don't believe me, just go check out the last few weeks of midweek watches that he's done. Look at his ideas and the levels he has, and then go and compare them to the charts and how they played out. I can't even put into words how much free money that guy's giving away. You're doing a disservice to yourself to not check it out, and he's setting the bar pretty damn high for myself, right? So hopefully this Sunday prep proves to be a good one. If you're wondering why I'm in the kitchen next to the espresso machine, I'm also a coffee aficionado. I love espresso and lattes. It's actually part of my morning routine, which, if you know anything about my views on routines, you know how important they are to me. Well, I spent the last week or so fixing my espresso setup, and if you didn't already know, I actually have an espresso YouTube channel and Instagram thing as well. It's at Super Spro Bros. So if you're interested in coffee, which I think if you trade and you have to wake up early and you have to be alert, yeah, coffee, check it out, guys. So I'm gonna make myself a shot, and then we're gonna get into the watch, okay? As always, neither I, True Trader, or any of its representatives are registered as security brokers dealers. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Nothing I talk about is a solicitation to buy or sell any stocks. It's merely my opinion and how I'm personally going to conduct my trading throughout the week. Make sure you understand that trading is inherently risky. Everything I talk about today is for entertainment purposes only. Now that I'm back at my desk, bang it back. Delicious. Let's rock. So, always starting with the broader market. All right, guys, so here's your monthly look at the ES. Are we still extended? Yes. But tomorrow, when the market opens, November starts. And that means that this monthly 20 SMA is going to inch higher. Not exactly sure the exact level it's going to be at, but it will be higher. As it catches up, as the move digests, we are less and less extended, at least as far as how I define extension. For me personally, I always use how far are we from the 20 SMA. So as time goes by, we become less and less extended, just the way it works. That's what happens when moves digest, right? This was a big move up, but if we go sideways and build a base, there's no reason that the move can't be just as healthy as any other move we've had in the past and make another leg up just like we have in the past, right? So let's move on into the next time frame down, the weekly chart. Start to see some of the little nuances now. Pulled back to the weekly 20, made new highs. What a surprise. Not really. Things still look intact, but we are extended on the weekly time frame now as well. Remember, we weren't. We pulled back to it, but we're back to being extended from that time frame. Let's zoom in one more, the daily. Now, this is where I feel like none of these pullbacks have really been substantial. Obviously, if we zoom into some intraday time frames, you'll see that there is plenty of consolidation in these areas here, and then also some in here, and we're pushing higher. What I'd really like to see is us head higher. I'd like to see it get looking more extreme. But again, the further we get from the 20 SMA, especially on the daily, the more and more I'm going to lean towards the short ideas. And just like I said, if I am going to have long ideas, I want them to be themes that have momentum. Because if the market rolls over, guess what's still going to have a bid? Things that are themes, things that have that momentum behind them. So one of the things I've noted is that this price action, where it's just kind of grindy, probably has a lot of people, just shorting, adding. It hasn't really squeezed shorts out yet. I'm actually kind of getting hopeful that we get a bit of a squeeze going in the broader market. That would actually be quite epic. So if the ES can get one of those parabolic type squeezes, where people go, holy crap, the SPY can actually move like a small cap? Yes, it can. Things work on trends, right? Right now, we're just trending, we're just grinding. It can speed up. I would love to see that. If it doesn't, if we lose some levels, there's definitely tons of support below, right? You have the breakout level of, let's just call it 45.50-ish. It's right in that area. If we lose that level, we still have this level here. We'll call it 44.75. And then the other level that's really, really interesting to me is the 20-day, 50-day grouping right there. I think any pullback back to that's probably going to have a lot of buyers lined up thinking that that's a great spot. So higher the better, yes, but definitely levels of support below where if we pull back to, then I can start looking at long ideas that might not necessarily be in a theme. But as we go higher, the only things I'm going to look towards are things that actually have some good momentum behind them. So let's move on to the NQ. Right, over to the NQ. And again, we'll do the same. We'll start with the monthly. And of course, you're going to say, oh my God, it's like listening to the ES on repeat. Yeah, of course. Their indexes, they move very correlated, right? This is more tech weighted though. So extended from the 20 on the monthly, yes. The pullback was a bit deeper when we did have it. This move could go a bit further. Let's go into the weekly. Extended, yes. The pullback to the 20-day gave us new all-time highs. A surprise there? Not at all. If you heard that notification, that's probably Benito being like, Ricky, where's the Sunday prep at? It's coming, buddy. I swear. All right, so moving on into the daily time frame. Extended, yes. Plenty of room back to the 20, plenty of room back to the 50. You can see the trend it's been holding. Again, if we don't squeeze out and go a little bit straight up, then pullbacks to certain levels can be looked at as support, right? We got obviously the all-time highs. I don't think I need to say that, but there was this level here, which was pretty important when we broke down. So I think pullbacks to that might end up as support. You have this trend line that I can just, I guess, extend a little bit further here. By the way, this trend line was drawn on an intraday time frame. It wasn't done on a daily chart, but I'm going to spare you the details of going into the intraday time frames right now. Again, just like with the ES, that 50-day, 20-day area here is going to be very interesting if we were to get down to those levels. But the real hope here is that we just squeeze out. Both the ES and the NQ to me look like they're just kind of grindy, and I really would like the early shorts to just be on the wrong side here and have to just kind of bail. When people have to scream uncle, that's usually the best time to be getting short. So I'm really hoping for that speed up and that squeeze out to give us some really epic opportunities on the short side for plenty of names right now. So that's the NQ. Let's move on to cryptos. So here we go with the Bitcoin chart, guys. Nothing really new to add to this from last week. We had the big breakout. We retested some levels. You can't really see it in this daily chart, but I believe it was the 28th. Was that Thursday? I think it was Thursday. We had pushed up. I'll show it to you guys. We'll just go into it intraday and I'll show you. We had pushed up this right here. We had pushed up all day, and then this thing just slammed. We had a really big flush in the cryptos, in Bitcoin especially, and it snapped right back up like nothing had happened. Guys, these are what we call opportunities. If you know something like this has been strong, when you see a big flush like this and there was no real headlines out there on it, there were so many opportunities out there. I actually traded Mara off this move, and I made 1.5 points, I believe, almost off it, and it was headache free. There were clear levels to buy it. You could see clearly where buyers showed up, and you had to find risk. And knowing that Bitcoin's been such a strong sector, like I talked about in the intro with themes, it gave me that conviction to just buy that when everybody else looked like they were panicking, right? No different than what I just talked about when everybody screams uncle on the short side. That's usually the best time to be getting short. It's the same on the long side. When everyone's panicking, when blood in the streets, everybody's scared shitless to buy something, that's usually the best time to buy it. And in a strong sector like the cryptos have been, man, it was a no-brainer. And there were other names you could have traded and had the same results. So make sure if you are following the crypto sector, in order to be able to trade the equities, right? The Maras, the coins, the Riots, the SOSs, the CANs, the BTBTs, every one of them, right? Make sure that you have game plans for when these moments arise. It's not enough to just go, oh, I like cryptos. I think cryptos are good. I'll be watching them this week. No, make some plans, because these kinds of moves can happen. And if you're not prepared, they're going to catch you off guard. You might think you're prepared, but are you really? Put in the work, guys. Get prepared. All right, that's it. Let's move on to sector analysis. All right, guys, moving over to barchart.com, get our little stock market sectors section, looking at the short-term matrix as always. And what I'm going to point out here, guys, is a few things. One, I know I was pointing out last week how energy and oil looked really good. They took a breather. The one thing I didn't like, let's head over to the ETFs and look at XOP. The one thing I didn't like was how the flag that I was pointing out broke to the upside and then slammed back down. We held support, but so far it's kind of looking like a failed breakout. What I'd like to see is us kind of start to push back up and start to make higher lows again. I don't think oil's done just yet, or energy. I mean, both of them did basically the same thing. Break the little flag, then slam back down to the 20-day. Both of them still look intact, but I'm never a big fan of when things break a certain pattern and then just get stuffed, right? That's one thing to note. The other thing I wanted to note was consumer discretionary had a huge week, right? Not only a huge week, but a huge month. And I wanted to look at that ETF and point something out to you guys. Look at this. What do you guys think about a chart like that? We extended? Looks like it to me. Now remember, can it go higher? Yes, it can. I'm not in the business of picking tops. Not what I'm here to do. But I am in the business of knowing when things are getting extended and possibly should be hands off on the long side, and maybe even looking for shorts on names that are also extended or were already weak. If this were to push any higher, I'm going to start looking for this sector for short ideas. So that's the one thing I did want to point out about both the sectors in general and just that consumer discretionary. So let's move on to the real stuff, the ideas. Let's go. As always, guys, we are going to start with our long ideas first, and there's two sections of that. The first one is strong stocks looking for continuation. First name on the list this week, QS. Now, this was on a prior Sunday prep when we had this move out of this base, right? It's pretty obvious why I was looking at it. Now, it's stuffed right after. But remember where the market was at that time, and it's not hard to see why. But now that whole EV sector has just gone bonkers, right? And we've broken back out. And I do want to make note of some levels here. So Friday had a gigantic move on very high volume. If we were to retrace that 61.8% fib level, it's going to put us right into the new monthly. So these pivots that I put on here, they won't be on the chart till Monday morning, right? When the new month starts. So these were calculated on my own, but I throw them on there so I can foresee where some of these levels might be and where they line up. So that 27 area is very interesting. It's going to be your monthly, a weekly, your 61.8% fib retrace, and it's also the highs from, was this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Yes, so Tuesday's highs. So a pullback to that level, like a week open, and I'm going to be looking for buyers to show up on this name for me to get long. Keep in mind, Tesla and Lucid and a few other of the EV names were, what really sparked the sector, and they're a bit extended. So if Tesla and Lucid come in, this might come in too. I would wait for the names that are leading the sector to show some support too. I don't just want to blindly buy this on a flush. I'd like to see what those leaders are doing first. But this is a very interesting level for me, and it's high up on my list for long ideas. Remember, themes, guys, EVs. So this one's the first one on this list. Let's move on to the next. Next name on my list is FRSH. Recent IPO. Remember, themes, guys. Technically, this chart looks great. On Friday, we just broke out to new all-time highs. A couple things to note, it was a 28.5 million share IPO. I think it was priced at 36. And what I'm looking for is two different spots, right? I like the 61.8% retrace, 48 level. It puts us right into that new weekly area. If the bigger move was going to retrace, I may be looking for the monthly down there at 46.60s. But I do think this high 47s to low 48s is an interesting area just because of where it was the recent breakout level, right? So pull back to where we just pushed from. I'd like a week open on this to see buyers show up and see if these IPOs remain holding bids. Remember, if the market comes in and some certain themes still remain strong and have that momentum, that's why you want your focus there. You don't want to be focusing on names that just haven't had strong themes behind them. So FRSH, we'll see if we get an opportunity on this one. The range is great. 2.8 is the ATR. And the volume, it's a little thinner. We traded almost 2 million shares on Friday. What I'm looking for is actually on pullbacks, the volume to be a bit lighter, but I want to see on days when they push if this volume continues to grow. Usually when we start to see the volume build, a move is coming. So we may be in the early stages of this. What I like to point out about IPOs is, in hindsight, when they have big moves, you always look at a chart like this and go, man, it was like a no-brainer. I don't want this to be hindsight, guys. This thing has a technically sound chart. If this is about to be a giant move, this is the kind of chart you want to see right at the beginning, okay? So go look at early charts from like names that had crazy moves after their IPO, like the PLTRs and the Rokus and things like that. They all started from really, really nice daily charts. And this one right here has my attention, guys. So FRSH, keeping it on watch for this week. Next name on my list is BKKT. Now this one is a double whammy because it's both a SPAC and it's crypto related. So it's got both those themes and it's been extremely strong. And I know a lot of people are probably familiar with the name and they're probably wondering, why would Ricky have something that's getting so extended to the upside on his long list? Well, let's drill into, let's look at the 120-minute chart here. See if you guys can see what I'm seeing here. Let's see. I don't think we need both of those. So what I wanted, oh, you know what that was? That was the one from the daily chart. Let me just hide this from the, there we go. Okay. I wanted to point this out. The trend's really what matters. We're a bit extended right now, but I can easily see this thing pulling back and just look, here's your low, a push up, higher low, and we broke. I want to see that retested. So the first spot I'm looking for is 32. 32 is going to be Thursday's high a day, a retest, and it's also a 61.8% fib retrace. The next spot I'm looking at is going to be right down here in this let's call it 30. Psychological round number. You know, if you want to just kind of scale in and just see if the buyers are showing up, I don't think you'd be too offsides if you started small at 32 with the plan to add at 30. I personally won't. I'm going to give it a shot at 32 on a week open, and I'll cut it if it's making lower highs and lower lows, and I'll revisit it at 30. I'd rather just start with a bigger position and cut it if it's not working than try to like slowly scale in as it comes in. I'd rather just add as it's pushing up. Different strokes for different folks. You can see the 120-minute 20 is curling up, and I'm willing to bet that come Friday morning, when the opening bell rings, that's probably going to be right up around 30 to 32. And I love to see pullbacks to the 20 SMA. You guys should know that by now. So that's why I like this name. I'm not going to be a buyer up here, or if it pushes any further, maybe it will end up as a short target for myself. But what I'd rather do is be buying this because it's got two themes behind it. Remember, it's a SPAC, and it's also part of the crypto space. And it had some really big news behind it. So I think there's a lot of people that short these things because they get so extended, and then they don't realize that when it pulls back, it's starting to hold a trend. So if people get stubborn, we could have another squeeze, and we may be seeing that. Now, what you saw me do was hide that other fib. What I wanted to point out was that this fib here is using after hours and pre-market data, right? But if we put that same fib on the regular trading hours, on the daily, this is just Friday's price action. The 61.8% fib retrace is still right there at 32. Why do I care? I just know that different people have different ways of looking at the market and analyzing things. And the more people that you can get looking at the same area, the more confluence we have and the more reasons why a level might have more eyes on it. So that's why I like 32. Again, I'll stop it and re-enter at 30, no problem. And even if I do that, it still might not work. Risk management first, guys. Risk management first, all right? So that's it for BKKT. And the last name on this list is AGC. Now, this was also a SPAC. Are we seeing a theme here? Yes, Ricky's pointing out the hot themes because why? If the market's going to come in and we want to be long, it better be something where it's going to have a bid. So what I've noticed on this is what? The volume. The volume's coming in big, right? We had a big move up. We pulled back. We pushed up higher. Well, guess what? A lot of people probably shorted this thing. And you know what? If they're getting stubborn and not paying attention or being objective, they may just be ignoring the fact that it's holding the 200-day and that 12 level. I'm looking to get long with using 12 as kind of my guide. I think as long as we're holding 12, this thing is looking pretty dangerous, especially since the pullback did what? What I just talked about, guys, was the pullback on low volume. If this thing starts to just hold 12 another day, I'm going to probably get in there. I'm going to look to be long because I feel like over this 1450 area, and you're going to have a lot of shorts panicking. Yes, there's a high short interest in this. No, that's not the thesis here. The thesis is, one, it's a SPAC, and two, that this move is holding. It's trying. The author's trying to talk to us right now, guys. So as long as it continues to hold 12, I feel like you can get in there with pretty tight risk, and there may be a gigantic reward in this one if we get that squeeze. So AGC, guys, look in verse 12. All right, guys, that's it for the strong stocks continuation. We're moving right on over to oversold reversion setups. And the only name I have on the list this week is Twitter. Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Twitter? Social media, right? What's happened to all the social media names? The Facebooks, the Snaps, the Pinterest, they've all got smoked, right? They all came in. Twitter's no different. So with the market where it's at, if the market rolls over, these names may come right down to the levels I want. So what levels do I like on Twitter? 50 is the first spot. Why? Well, you got this monthly SMA that's going to be creeping up. I think come Monday morning when that adjusts a little higher, it'll probably put it right around 50. I don't know if 50 is going to be the bottom or not. Again, I'm not here to guess bottoms, just like I'm not here to guess tops. But that's the first area of interest. The new monthly pivot is going to be 48.32. And if you guys can't see why this area is interesting, just zoom out. I say this all the time, guys. Zoom out. Sometimes these weekly and monthly charts make things just look so much more clear and less noisy, right? So look at this level and the importance of it. I think anywhere between 48 to 50 is the spot for Twitter. it's going to require the market coming in to get down there, I think. I don't think it gets down there unless the market rolls over. But what I would like to see is if the market rolls over and brings Twitter down, I want the market to be coming into some serious levels of support as well. I don't want to be early on this if the market has some follow through to the downside. Keep that in mind. The same idea that I'm talking about with Twitter, guys, can still be applied to Snap and PayPal from last week's Sunday prep. Both of them have not come, or actually, all three of them have not come down to the levels I want yet. All three of them are most likely going to require the market to roll over to get down to the levels I like. Keep in mind, I want the market to come into levels of support too, not just the market starts to roll over and these names come down to these levels. No. Keep an eye on the NQ too when you watch these. Don't just watch the SPY, guys. The NQ is the tech sector. These are all tech names. Keep that in mind. That's the idea on Twitter. Heading over to our short setups. First section we got weak stocks looking for continuation. And the first name on my list this week is Jumia. J-A-J-M. I don't know why I can't spell this stupid name. J-M-I-A. And as you guys can see, this 17 level is pretty damn important on the name, right? So it's only got a 1-point ATR. So why would it be on my list? Well, my guess is that if we lose 17, we don't have an average range day. I feel like this thing loses 17 and we might get one of those 1.5 to 2 point days, maybe even larger. That's a pretty important level on the daily. Let's look at the weekly and it just really highlights the importance of that level. Coming under there, this thing may be, I don't want to put price targets on it, but it has quite a bit of downside in my opinion. I think maybe like 12s, and we're trading at 17 plus now. There's two ways I could see myself playing it. Let's look at the intraday because I do have it kind of marked on there. And that is the first level. I may consider a short if we get some kind of spike off the open on Monday into these low 18s. The next monthly pivot is going to be 1839. And you can see how important this low 18 area has been on this name, right? The other way I'm more excited to play it, I will entertain a fade on an early spike, like an emotional pop imbalance off the open. But what I'd rather see is us break 17, and then as soon as we break 17, my idea is the short pops risking the previous high, and the thesis is lower highs, we breached an important level, and this thing can flush out. So I'd rather us break 17 and then short pops. But again, I will entertain an emotional spike off the open come Monday into those low 18s. So Jumia is the first name on the list. Next name on the list for this setup, guys, is Starbucks, S-B-U-X. And I know a lot of you see this chart and you probably go, that kind of looks like what Ricky would typically have on his oversold reversion setups. Yeah, maybe. What sector is it in? Consumer discretionary, guys. Remember that. Let's look at it again. XLY. See if I can pull this chart up. Remember this chart? Yeah, this is that sector. So if this were to get a push any higher, we may get that push back up into some levels on Starbucks. I'm looking at high 108s to low 109s, which is that area we broke down from. And I think this thing's going to stuff. Keep an eye on XLY and keep an eye on the SPY, the S&P. If those start to roll over, I think consumer discretionary is coming in, and I think Starbucks looks vulnerable. So on top of that, their coffee sucks. So short Starbucks. Last name in this section, guys, is RCL, Royal Caribbean. Again, consumer discretionary sector. So if you want to trade these things, keep an eye on XLY and keep an eye on the SPY. Why do I like this? Well, it popped right into the underside of the 20-day on Friday, and that's a pretty convincing stuff right there. I feel like there's two ways to play this. You can short pops on Monday morning into Friday's highs with pretty defined risk, right? You can use Friday's highs or the high from, I think that's Tuesday, 86.70-ish. Basically using those highs as your over under. But I think I'd rather wait for an 82.50 crack and then short pops and join trend, right? So I know that the travel sector can be very cyclical. And yes, November, December, a lot of people travel, right? So sometimes these names catch bids. But I'm not looking to swing this. I am just looking for a day trade on it. And I feel like if the technicals are telling me it's a go and the price action is agreeing, I have no problem shorting this. So I'm looking for that 8250 crack and short pops. Again, eyes on the XLY ETF as well as the SPY. I think if they come in, this comes in. And again, I feel like on Friday, that pop into the underside of the 20-day was on pretty high volume. You may have some people up there that got to jump ship, pun intended. So we'll be watching RCL come Monday for a fade. The last section, guys, is our overbought reversion section. I want to point something out before we get into the ideas. And that is, typically this section is reserved for names that are really extreme. But when the market gets extended, the parameters kind of open up a little bit in what is defined as, vulnerable to a market correction. That doesn't mean I get sloppy. You have to understand one thing about mean reversion setups. Your edge, the reason you have an edge is because something gets extreme. The more extreme it is, the more probable the reversion is. So just because the market's extended doesn't mean we just say anything's possibly a short. We still want to focus on the high probability setups. So just keep that in mind as we head into this into this last section, all right, guys? So the first name on this list this week, guys, is Tesla, and it really probably should come as no surprise when you look at the chart. Pay no attention to the long idea. That was a swing idea that played out. There's nothing left to do with it. I do just like to leave things on the charts so I can refer back to them later for things that worked and sometimes things that didn't. But let's pay attention to this up here. Are we extended? Yes, but I want one thing to be crystal clear. We did try to pull back already. It showed the ability to convincingly hold that psychological 1K level. So even though it looks really extreme, the author's trying to tell you something right there. This could head higher. I would actually welcome a gap up and a push higher. I want this thing to get as extreme looking as possible. But we got a lot of room back to the 20-day, so it's staying on my list. That next month's R1, that monthly pivot up there as resistance, is going to be right around 1230 to kind of put in perspective where I'm actually looking to do some business. I think a push up into these 1200s, low 1200s, is going to give it that look that I would like. I want you also to remember, well, one, I'm not in the business of guessing tops. I've said it a few times. I'm going to say it again. I don't want to guess tops. Let everyone else push this thing higher, do all the heavy lifting, and then us just be patient. Look for those lower highs, look for something to risk against, and wait till it's ready. But the other thing I wanted to note is this idea is not for 10, 20, 30 points. This is a bigger picture idea, and when it's ready, I seriously think there's probably a 100-point plus trade in here. Granted, keep in mind that's like a $12 stock pulling back to 11, right? But depending on the size you put on it, or maybe you want to try to express your idea using options. That's always a possibility as well. But don't be that guy that starts covering the second it starts confirming that it's breaking down, right? You're going to look at the chart in hindsight and go, why did I cover so early? Be patient for your entries, but guys, be patient for your targets too. Realize how big of an opportunity this is and don't blow it. Patience, guys. Patience. All right? Tesla. Next idea on this list is KKR. Now, we are getting a bit extreme, and one of the things I will point out is what I like to do is look at how far we are from the 20-day and compare it to what the name historically does. Historically, the name really doesn't get too much further away from the 20-day than we currently are. You see here we pushed up, pull back to the 20-day. Here we pushed up, back to the 20. We're further from the 20-day than we usually get. That being said, I don't think it's ready just yet. I'd rather see a gap up and a push up into those high 82s, low 83s. You got that quarterly pivot up there, and I think that would make it look even juicier. Again, just like with Tesla, guys, wait for the author to give you the green light. I'm not here to pick tops. Wait for some lower highs, wait for some defined risk. But again, I think there's a big trade setting up in this one, KKR. All right, guys, and the last name on my list this week is NET, Cloudflare. The reason this is on my list this week is because my DMs have been getting flooded with people asking me about this name, saying things like, how can this keep going higher? What justifies this move? They look at it in terms of percentage move up in the last month. They look at this and go, well, it's up 80% in the last month. How much higher can it go? And I want to take this moment to show people how to look at something objectively and understand a few things. And one is, I think we touched on it earlier, is the could versus should. Could this roll over and come in? Of course it can. Should it? I don't think you can look at this chart and say definitively with any sort of like high conviction that this should roll over. Look, it's tried twice. We pulled back here, higher. Pulled back here, higher. Twice now on the daily chart, it's pulled back, made higher lows, and the 20 SMA is catching up. So what's going on here? Well, just because you see it as extended on the daily chart, you guys got to look under the hood and see maybe there's another time frame in control. So let's take a look real quick, guys. Here's the 120-minute chart. Let me go to my object tree real fast and turn these on. Okay, so why do I have these drawings? Pretty simple. Look at the 120-minute 20 SMA. Every time we pull back, we hold and we go higher. We hold and we go higher. Every time we lose it and it looks dead, what happens? We end up making these little lows, push up, intermediate high, higher low, and then that triggers and we go right back to highs. So if you look at it from this view, it's not really extended. Of course, I mean, you could say this has some room back to the 120-minute 20, but when we look at these names, we're looking for bigger picture ideas, guys. So we're not there yet. Now, this whole preamble was really just so that I could then tell you guys, yes, I do think a big trade is setting up here. I just don't think we're there yet. So let me explain what I would be looking for. Turn these off because they were showing on the daily chart. Whoops. And let's go back to the daily. So I want higher. Now here's the thing. When a lot of people start asking me questions about something like this, typically what that tells me is there's probably a lot of shorts on this thing hurting, right? And unfortunately, when that happens, a lot of times there's a lot of people that need to be squeezed out. If it's you, understand that like sometimes it's easier to take the loss now than to be forced out. You never want to be forced out of a move. A good mentor of mine actually had a really funny thing he said one time. He said, a margin call is the wrong way to set a stop loss. And he's 100% right, guys. So here's what I want to point out. The annual pivot up here is 223.43. On Monday, next month, November, the monthly pivot, I want to just check real quick, make sure I got the right number. Yeah, it's 224.77. So it's going to put it right up here around here. If shorts are hurting here, up around 225-ish, they're really going to be screaming. And what did we say earlier? When shorts are screaming uncle and bailing, that's usually the best time to be entering your short. So that's what I'm looking for on net. So if hearing the number 224 to 225 scares the living daylights out of you, you're probably on the wrong side of this trade at the moment. Now listen, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you guys what to do. You have to manage your own risk. You know more than I'm going to know if you're on the wrong side of a trade. But be objective. Don't fight things. Live to fight another day. That's always the most important thing, guys. 224 to 225 is where I will begin to get interested in this name. And it's just like Tesla. It's just like KKR. I'm not going to guess the top. I'm going to look for lower highs and something to risk against. But if we were to get up there in an emotional manner, I think you have a big trade setting up. Just keep that in mind, guys. So that's it on net. Guys, and that concludes the Sunday prep. Have a great Halloween. Remember, capital preservation is everything. Focus on risk first. Focus on P&L, never. It's never about the P&L, it's about the process, guys. Capital preservation. The most important thing is to be around to trade the next day. Stay safe. I'll see you guys at the market on Monday. Let's crush it. Peace.